Happy Thirsty Thursday, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Mean Streets presented by So Rare, live here on Game Plus Network, also live on our FTN Network YouTube page. Chris Meaney hanging out with you. If you are indeed listening on iTunes and Spotify, we appreciate you wherever it is that you listen to Mean Streets, whether you're viewing or you are listening. If you could smash the like button, have any comments, any questions, you can leave them there in the YouTube section. You can hop on over from Game Plus Network, hop on over from iTunes or Spotify. Give us 5 stars if you can, a comment, a question, any concerns, something you'd like to see on the show, keeper league questions, football questions, hockey, NHL, baseball, basketball. We are here for you nonstop. We have our guy Sam Schurtery stopping by in a little bit, a very successful underdog fantasy player. And we chopped it up, I believe, maybe just a couple days after the NFL draft. And we talked about rookies. We talked about the strategy. We also mentioned players that we thought were great values at the time. And now it's been roughly 2 months, I believe, since Sam and I have chopped it up on this show. So I'm really looking forward to, seeing how his drafts have gone, what he's seen, ADP risers, fallers. We're going to talk some sleepers. I got a list of like 15 stacks for him. And I'm sure I left off a couple good ones. We'll talk about a couple of his favorite ones, some late round stacks to attack. Also, some sleepers at the running back position and the wide receiver position. So a little bit of fantasy football, actually a lot of fantasy football talk on this show. The latest on Saquon, Josh Jacobs, where are these guys falling now? Are we willing to take them in best ball drafts? Alvin Kamara. I also want to get his thoughts on potentially Leonard Fournette signing with the New England Patriots as well. I know the Pats are working Leonard Fournette out. I believe they're working out another running back. I forget the name now. It's maybe we'll get it out of the break, but not a big name, but working out a couple backs. There's been some reports in New England, maybe easing Ramondre Stevenson's workload here in year number 3, which would pain me. I have a lot of Stevenson shares in best ball and dynasty formats. I mean, a couple of years ago in rookie only drafts, he was a steal. Like you can got this guy in the 3rd round of some rookie only drafts, and last year top 5 in terms of targets and catches, but are they going to bring somebody in like a Dalvin Cook, which really would hurt Ramondre Stevenson? Right now, he's an end of the 2nd round pick, sometimes in the 3rd, but he could fall into the 4th. And great real life situation. Ramondre and Dalvin Cook seems like a pretty good 1-2 punch, but from a fantasy perspective, not going to love it. Not going to like it at all. So Sam's hanging by. There's a lot of afternoon action around the diamond in Major League Baseball. Check out ftnbets.com/free. Still running 3 free day trials over there at FTN Bets and FTNDaily.com. MLB Dream is over 70 units. Our guy Frank Brank, aka Bank, is killing it as well with over 30 units. We're over the 30 unit mark ourselves here. So if you're looking for some early afternoon action, head on over to ftnbets.com. But if you're looking for some late afternoon action, evening action, we do have some picks and some props. We have a fun same game parlay from Bet365. I wanted to touch base with you guys as well. So that a little bit later on in the show. Brazis 91 in the house. Good afternoon. As you see, FTN Daily. How about our guy Tommy Fleetwood? Give him some love yesterday. T1 so far here at the Open Championship, 5 under his first round in the books. Lutesta in the house as well. Just hit the 100 plus best ball mark this week. Curious to see your sleepers this time of the year. I got a list of like 5 running backs outside the top 40, I believe, and then 5 wide receivers in the last 5 rounds of drafts, like after ADP 160 roughly. And I'm sure Sam's going to have a few as well, and he may agree or disagree with mine, but we'll have a bit of we'll have a fun conversation, I hope. And Lou, love to hear, a couple of your sleepers, 100 plus best ball drafts. I'm sure you got a couple sleepers you'd like to share with us as well. Okay, so before we break, want to give some love to Circa Las Vegas, one of the coolest places in the world. If you've ever been at Stadium Swim, it's fantastic. But they're also running a pretty cool $14 million in guaranteed prizes contest over at Circa as well. $1,000 to enter, 5 entries, $6 million in guaranteed prizes. You got weekly prizes there as well. And something that's pretty cool, I had to double check, is that if you come, last place or second last place, you're going to earn some bucks as well. 100K and 50K to the last place finishers, which is cool, right? If you have a bad go, you're going to get some cash. $1 million to first place, 3.65 million in prizes from second to 100th place. So you come top 100, you're going to get some cash, 300K in prizes for each quarter of the season as well. Again, you can enter up to 5 times and $1,000 entry fee as well. And something also pretty cool happening this weekend over at Sirius XM Fantasy Radio, FTN Fantasy Show every Saturday, channel 87 on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. Myself, Jake Seeley, and Lauren Carpenter. We're going to have our guy, Aaron Schatz, on the show. And of course, Aaron he's going to join us on the show this weekend. So I'm really looking forward to that conversation as well. But, he's Aaron is the GOAT. Right. He's fantastic. He's the founder of Football Outsiders, the creator of DVOA. We've seen him all over Football Outsiders, ESPN Plus, and he's got his almanac over at FTNFantasy.com. I don't know if you have that nice little graphic that George made us. It's all good. We can bring it up another time, but there it is. Look at this. Pre-order $29.99. He's got over 500 plus fantasy projection player profiles. Team profiles, it's an unbelievable read. He just joined our guy Adam Pfeiffer on one of our podcasts this week as well, so check that out. It is free to listen to. Aaron he's so intelligent. You see the quote from Bill Simmons. I mean, a book that any self-respecting NFL fan needs to purchase. Kimes quote retweeted it as well as one of the best reads out there in the industry, and I will second that as well. So really happy to have his 2023 Almanac, a part of the FTN fantasy goodness that is all football over at FTNFantasy.com. We're going to break. We'll bring in Sam. I know he's hanging by. We're going to get into some underdog stuff. We're going to have a fun little football show here. Love to hear from you guys, your favorite targets, stacks, questions that you have on certain players, backfields, type of strategy that you'd like to imply. All that here next on Mean Streets. Keep her locked. Sam's in here.
Play So Rare MLB, a free revolutionary fantasy game and marketplace that transforms fans into general managers. Build your team with ownable digital player cards. Collect, buy, sell, and trade to optimize your lineup. Compete against So Rare managers from around the world. Climb leaderboards and advance to elite competitions. Based on your player's performance on the field, win rewards like game tickets, merch, and much more. Draft your set of free cards now at SoRare.com/MLB. Play So Rare MLB, a free revolutionary fantasy game and marketplace that transforms fans into general managers. Build your team with ownable digital player cards. Collect, buy, sell, and trade to optimize your lineup. Compete against So Rare managers from around the world. Climb leaderboards and advance to elite competitions. Based on your player's performance on the field, win rewards like game tickets, merch, and much more. Draft your set of free cards now at SoRare.com/MLB.
Welcome back in Main Streets here on Game Plus Network. Chris Meaney here as we bring in Sam Schutery, SC_FFB on the Twitter machine. And welcome in, good sir. It's been a while since we've chopped it up. Remember, I think we got together just days after the NFL draft and we talked about all those hot rookies, right? We talked about Anthony Richardson, where this guy was going to go, Jordan Addison, guys rising up draft boards, which we have seen. But welcome in, man. Thanks for taking the time here today.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's been a while. I think we were talking about the first week of Best Ball Mania, how those drafts were going. And yeah, we're 50 days away now. It's getting closer and closer. But yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I am good. Yeah, we're 50 days away. We're getting closer, like you said. And I know you're doing drafts all the time. We have an Underdog Fantasy channel in our Slack, and a constant draft showing, and I'm all about it. Before we get into like stacks and sleepers and all those things, what have you noticed over the last 2 months roughly doing some Underdog? Is there a player or two that is there anything that you've noticed in your drafts, like whether it's a player or two that's significantly jumped up or have fallen down draft boards, or people going heavy wide receiver? Every time I do a draft I see heavy wide receiver, but it does throw me off when I see a couple drafts where it's like, whoa, okay, people are going a different way here, and there's like 8 running backs in the first round. I have seen that before, Sam.
Yeah, no, I think that's honestly the main takeaway. I thought earlier in the draft season, this was a super wide receiver heavy room, and it's a pretty crazy off season. I thought, maybe when the casuals start to trickle in, maybe we'll get better values on these receivers. But I mean, if anything, it's gotten even worse because you see guys like Ramondre, Jacobs, Barkley now all falling down the board. And I mean, at this point, I don't really know if it's going to change or not, because this is sort of the time where, the guys like you and myself that haven't been drafting all off season long start coming in. And I think even they'll quickly realize as soon as you start grabbing those running backs, you're going to get squeezed out real quick. So, yeah, it's been tough to navigate through. And I don't know if we've ever seen anything like this before, but it's going to be interesting. I feel like we're going to see a lot of different, unique rosters come the playoff stretch. It's going to be a lot of the later round guys that, there's always those guys that you needed to have, like Jacobs last season. But just with the running backs falling down the board, you're going to get locked in top 12 running backs that you got, in the 8th through 10th round. So it'll be pretty interesting.
Is there a strategy that you're married to, whether it is, do you get yourself a hero RB in the first 5 picks? Are you really looking to get alpha wide receivers? Like, what is there in particular a strategy that you love to employ? And of course, you don't need to be married to one. You can adjust as the draft, falls to you, or mix things up. Do you have a favorite strategy? Are you RB heavy? Are you zero RB? Or hero RB? What do you like to do?
Yeah, I'd say probably about 90% of my drafts are either hero RB with. I mean, I think normally I like grabbing a wide receiver in the first round, so it'll either be in the second round or the third round. I'll grab my hero RB and push it down to the 7th, 8th, 9th round till I get my second running back. But yeah, it's either that or zero RB. Where I mean, like I said, you're getting these RB1s down in the 7th round, and you can do a hero RB with the zero RB start just with the nature of these draft rooms. But yeah, if I had to say it, 90% are going to be hero RB or zero RB.
And let's talk about Saquon and Jacobs. Are you hesitant at this moment to draft those guys, or is there a certain point where, hey, if Saquon is going to fall to the mid to late second, I'm going to take this guy every time? Like, what do you make of those two running backs potentially could hold out?
Yeah, so me personally, I mean, I haven't updated my rankings or changed them at all, but I think Saquon Barkley should honestly be going, in the 1-2 turn, top of the second round. And his ADP was already in that mid second round. And the only thing that I'm doing is just because I have gotten my Barkley exposure, I'm fine where I'm at. And I'm seeing these draft rooms where he's even gotten to the top of the third round. So I'm fine just sort of diversifying. I personally have Barkley ranked above, Jonathan Taylor, and his ADP is or is before Barkley. So really, I'm just not reaching on Barkley. I'll sprinkle in, like I said, Jonathan Taylor, a guy that I don't have much of, just because I know that he's not a guy that's going to fall throughout this point of the offseason. If anything, he'll rise, if we see training camps of him running and whatnot. So it's more just an exposure thing. I think if I were to give any advice, I wouldn't look too far into it, because I'm not really expecting any of these guys to hold out, because what's the point? You're going to lose money. The deadline's passed. You can't get a new contract. And we just saw the Le'Veon Bell situation play out, and they know what it's like. You can't just sit out a year and expect
Right.
to get paid top of the market, because what's going to change next season? So for the most part, I'm just sort of shying away if I have good enough exposure on them, but I'm really not too worried.
I think I agree with you. I think we'll see them too. The one guy that I guess I could be worried about would just be Josh Jacobs. I just feel like I just feel like he's a guy that's not super happy in McDaniel's system. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading into that too much, but he's just coming off a season where he led the NFL in rushing yards. He got touches at the Hall of Fame game. The team didn't pick up his fifth option. I feel like there's some sort of bad blood there inside the organization, but I do believe that these guys will all play as well. Talking about Bijan, since we're on running backs, I mean, his ADP is 10. He's RB3 on average. How many shares of Bijan do you have?
I have I want to say I have 3 total shares of Bijan, and that's more of just the way I'm drafting. I think there is a small tier gap between the first round wide receivers down to the second round, and even I mean Devontae Adams, he's going at in the middle of the second round around pick 15, and it's kind of tough. I think I think the drafts that I have gotten Bijan, I have done the Bijan and Devontae Adams start, which I'm completely fine with. I think Devontae Adams is a tier 1 wide receiver, and we just saw recently these past couple weeks where Bijan finally dropped below Eckler, which I think he should have always been below Eckler. So I guess it'll be easier for me. I do need to get more exposure to him, and I think I will be able to. Just that minor tweak of him moving down a spot in running back rankings will allow me to get more exposure. But is there really a difference between Bijan and Nick Chubb, who's available in the second round? So that's sort of my big thing about Bijan is I don't think he's in the first round running back tier, even in a half PPR site. But I mean, we've seen these rookies, Zeke, Barkley, finish top 3 at their position. So I'm not doubting it at all. I'm just trying to figure out if it's worth the draft capital you have to spend compared to the round 1 wide receivers versus the round 2 running backs and the round 1 running backs. So that's my main gripe.
And that's my thinking as well. It's like I think Bijan's gonna have a good season. I think he's a good back. He's a great offensive line. Algier just had 1,000 yards and 200 carries. Like Arthur Smith wants to run the football. It's just the way that I draft as well. I am typically taking a wide receiver in that range and getting Nick Chubb in the second. I think just Nick Chubb is 1,000 yards every year. I think he can get an uptick this year in catches. So I just think it's a touch risky. I think I got 1 share and I've done several drafts as well. I don't know if I'm living in the 100 plus like our guy Lou Testa here, but I have quite a few drafts. We've done a lot here on this show as well, and I don't have many shares of Bijan Robinson. I want to continue the running back theme here just for a second, and then we'll break and maybe get into some stacks and sleepers. Since I have you, Dalvin Cook is interesting. Right now, we have a free tool over at FTNFantasy.com showing the ADP of Underdog. I'm seeing Dalvin Cook as RB27, pick 87 on average. Robert Saleh was just asked about Dalvin Cook this morning, and he took the high road. Of course, he is going to. So I think I'm paraphrasing. So, yeah, anytime you can get a player like Cook, you're not going to say no, but I'll leave it up to the GM to see what way they go. Breece Hall is a guy that I think some people are worried about maybe taking at the end of the second, early third in some drafts because the potential of Cook going there. Also, how much are you thinking about Cook? Like, is this just a wait and see? Do you take the value on Cook? Do you bypass Miami running backs because Cook may go there? And also, this is a loaded question here, but let's also tie in Leonard Fournette and on him as a guy that has been really free in drafts. And once he lands on a team, I'm sure he's going to move up a couple rounds. And if it is New England, that's going to be really tough from a Ramondre Stevenson standpoint, right?
Yeah, I think I posted yesterday in our the Underdog Slack. I've just been pounding Leonard Fournette pretty much every chance I can get. I mean, he's in the 18th round, and I think it was at 35% right now with about 100 drafts. I mean, normally I'd say I like to have around 5 running backs, sometimes 6 total, and I just don't feel the need to ever draft my last running back before round 18 because he's just free there, and I'm confident that he's going to play. Even when he was released by the Bucks, you saw a lot of stuff talking about maybe the Bucks were done with him, they were ready to hand over the reins to Rachaad White, but you got to realize he came out publicly, and even Tampa Bay did as well, that he asked for his release because he wanted to play for a contender. So him not playing the season was never in the back of my mind, and it sort of goes against what he said. He wants to play for a contender, compete for a championship, unless that's how he views Patriots roster. But that's the team that's tied to him the most. And the landing spot is pretty irrelevant to me because him just being on a team, he's going to rise, 3, 4, 5 rounds. So I'm fine being completely overweight on him. And I want him to sign because I want to stop drafting him. I don't want my entire portfolio to be dictated about by Leonard Fournette. But end of the day, it's an 18th round pick. And same goes for Dalvin Cook. I'm drafting a lot of him as well because you talked about the Jets. It looks like the favorites right now are Jets, Patriots, and Miami. I think we'd all agree that Miami would be the ideal landing spot. And he'd probably jump, into the third round, maybe mid third round, 3-4 turn, just with the way these lobbies are. But if he signs with the Jets or Patriots, is he going to fall at all with where he's going right now? I mean, I'm looking at it, he's next to James Cook, Zach Charbonnet. These are guys that we know aren't going to be in a workhorse role. And I love Brees Hall more than anything, but if he signs with the Jets, is he really going to fall down below Charbonnet, who's also the RB2 behind Ken Walker? So if I think Jets is the worst case scenario, and I don't think he really has any room to fall in the worst landing spot possible, I'm just going to keep drafting him because I know there's that out with Miami where he jumps 3 to 4 rounds. So I feel like just with where he's priced right now, you're not losing anything because I don't see him ever staying here or falling. So when I'm doing hero RB, I'll push it to the 9th round and take Dalvin Cook in my RB2 because if he's a workhorse, he's a great RB2. If he's in a split, he has usable points, which is what I'm doing at RB2, just piling up usable points together and try and hit on the guy that spikes.
I love it. Yeah, I just feel like he's one of the biggest steals at the moment in Cook. All right. I mean, you just said it perfectly. I mean, this guy, wherever he lands, he's going to rise up draft boards just a touch. And he's falling even further than that, as we just mentioned, RB27 in around Charbonnet, as you mentioned, James Cook, Javonte Williams, who I do have some shares of as well, is another guy that I think could, come October, maybe has more of a workload in Denver, and he does have the potential in the later months, I say December, to be like a top 10 running back. He does have that upside, but I also like Samaje Perine. I think both of these guys could be very good in Denver. We saw Peyton in New Orleans a few years ago. Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara were both top 12 running backs in fantasy football. Not the second time that they brought back Mark Ingram, but the earlier time that they had Ingram and Alvin Kamara. Those guys were like really good 1-2 punches. So I think Javonte, roughly RB30, is worth your time as well. Hunt, do you view it the same, or do you feel like Hunt's role could actually be maybe limited? He's not going as late, I don't think, as Fournette, but both of those guys, for me, I take one or the other, or Zeke, because I just know, like you said, once they land on teams, they will rise up draft boards. And I'm kind of the hero RB as well. I'm just looking for upside at that point in drafts. Do you view Zeke the same? Like, where's a good landing spot for Zeke? I mean, you could name a dozen teams where he could be a goal line back there, and that's good enough for his fantasy outlook outside of RB35.
Yeah, like I mentioned, when I said Lenny was my highest exposed running back at 35%, Zeke's next at 34%.
Next. Okay. So you're doing the same thing.
Yeah, so I'm trying not to draft them on the same team. So those are different drafts. So that's about 70% of my drafts have one of the two. And Kareem Hunt is another guy. I think I would be drafting a lot more if Fournette wasn't free in the 18th round, because Hunt's ADP is also in the 18th round. So I would say if there was a round separating them, maybe I'd push it and take Hunt. But I think Hunt did sort of lose a step last season, and Lenny wasn't great, but he has all the high value touches. He gets used in the pass game. He has the goal line role. We don't know if he's going to hold on to the goal line role, but I don't think wherever he goes, he's going to be a guy that you take off the field if you're in scoring range. So I just feel better about them. Zeke, everyone craps on Zeke, but for the role that he played last season as a second fiddle to Pollard, he still did his job well. And we even saw Dallas, they tried to get me playing Pollard in DFS all the time. Pollard would get some of the goal line touches. I remember a time, maybe it was the Texan, or I think maybe it was a Texans game where he got 3 goal line carries and couldn't punch it in, and Zeke comes in and pounds it right in and scores. And you can't be upset with that, but that's just Zeke. I mean, he's always had a prowess for the red zone, even if he's lost a step. And I think similar to Lenny, I mean, these guys, they just have a role in their offense, even though they might have lost a step. But I think I think he'll more likely than not sign to a contender as well. But like I said, I mean, you can name the worst landing spot imaginable for these guys, but if people can put a team to the name, they're just going to rise up draft boards no matter what. So I just want to get overweight on these guys. And Kareem Hunt is a guy that I've sort of jotted down that maybe I should get more exposure to him because end of the day, we're playing for week 18. I can tell you that Lenny and Zeke are going to be better than Hunt wherever they go for the course of the season. But am I confident that they're going to be the guy that scores in week 18? Not at all. So I'm just pounding these free agents that I think are going to land somewhere.
I'm with you. I think it's good advice to get one of the three. Like, don't stack them up. Like you said, it's one or the other. Maybe you do some Zeke, you do some Lenny here. You don't get Lenny. Maybe you go Kareem Hunt there. But I think, yeah, to your point, Pollard was, I think, 2 for 7 on goal line carries last year. He's not really built that way, but Zeke is, and Lenny certainly is. Those guys are freaks near the goal line, and they can both catch the rock, especially Fournette. He had a bunch of catches last year, and over the past couple of years, he's had a ton of catches. We got a break for now, dude. We'll get out of the newsy, trendy stuff that we're talking about. I really wanted to hit up some running backs with you. I got like a few sleepers. Lenny is on there, a couple others that I wanted to address with you, and some wide receivers, but we'll talk stacks here next. And you mentioned like week 18. I want to get into the couple weeks. I got a graphic I want to show with you as well, and see if we're overthinking a little bit too much, but potential game stacks for towards the end of the NFL season when it's all on the line for $1 million over at UnderdogFantasy.com. So keep her locked. Sam's in here next. We're going to continue the football talk on Game Plus Network.
Play So Rare MLB, a free revolutionary fantasy game and marketplace that transforms fans into general managers. Build your team with ownable digital player cards. Collect, buy, sell, and trade to optimize your lineup. Compete against So Rare managers from around the world. Climb leaderboards and advance to elite competitions. Based on your player's performance on the field, win rewards like game tickets, merch, and much more. Draft your set of free cards now at sorare.com/MLB.
The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare. Build your teams just like an owner. Buy, sell, or trade officially licensed digital player cards. Build your 5-player weekly lineup, and you could win rewards like tickets, autographed jerseys, and more. The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare, taking Dynasty to the next level.
Welcome back in. Chris Meaney, Sam Shooter here of FTN Fantasy, Mean Streets on Game Plus Network, talking a little Underdog Fantasy, some best ball news, some NFL news we just hit on at the running back position, taking what the draft will give you. This is a lot to take in here. I have a list I put together. I got some numbers next to it, but it's just like kind of a rough ranking. And I know I left some teams off, but this is a lot to get into here. We don't need to dive into all of this, but these are some stacks to attack. I am high on the Jags. I know we touched on Ridley. I still kind of have the same feelings as you, as Ridley going a little early, but I do have some shares, and I'm fine with Ingram or Kirk and Jones and getting T-Law in there. I think the Ravens are interesting this year as well with Monken in town, and they ran 11 personnel fewer than anyone last year, but now they added, OBJ and Flowers to Bateman and Lamar and the dual threat that he has, and J.K. Dobbins' efficiency. I really think that this Ravens offense will flow. Maybe I'm a little low on the Bills. I mean, they were a top 3 scoring team in the NFL last season. Allen and Diggs is a great stack. Davis's value this year. Last year, I thought he was going a little early. Kincaid, Shakir in there. The Dolphins, I mean, when Tua's healthy, these guys are unbelievable, right? I mean, Hill and Waddle, both top 12 wide receivers, they're very explosive. It is a stack that I have in a couple spots. There's some risk certainly there, and it's not a deep, deep stack. I don't know if there's room for a third wide receiver in Miami or a tight end that I really, really like. Talk to me about maybe one of your favorite stacks. Maybe there's a team or two that I'm missing on this list as well.
Yeah, I think the chalk stack is Chiefs and Bengals, and for good reason. That's the one game that we can feel confident are going to have two top five scoring offenses. We've seen these guys match up plenty of times in the past couple of seasons. It never fails to disappoint. But I think you made a good point here. You talked about the Bills and Eagles. You consider the Chiefs, Eagles, Bills as like sort of the premium stacks, but you look at Eagles, we have no idea what Arizona's situation is going to be in Week 18, and then Bills versus Patriots. Those are normally pretty ugly games. So you know, just looking at it, I would say that Chiefs versus Bengals is my favorite game, but I'm not having a lot of them. Just with the way I mentioned earlier about taking wide receivers over running backs, I'm always overweight Travis Kelce. I love Travis Kelce, but just with the lobbies that we're in right now, I'm sort of preferring wide receivers over every position, and I don't really want to take naked Mahomes without Kelce. I don't feel great about taking Tony, in that 6-7 turn, and then I don't want to just have Mahomes stacked up with Sky Moore and Rashee Rice. So that would be the game that I'd like to target, but I'm not going to have a lot of it. I like these. You mentioned the Dolphins. I really like the Dolphins Ravens game. We saw week one last season. Both these teams put up over 40 points and just pop off. We can't just copy and paste that. But Dolphins, I feel great about when Tua's healthy, and the Ravens offense. They've added a lot of nice pieces. If Lamar can stay healthy, we've seen his ceiling. So that's a game I like. And then I'd say the Lions and Cowboys I'm really into as well. I think I really like taking CeeDee Lamb at the back of the first round. So a lot of times when you get Lamb, you can lock up Dak pretty easily. And I'm way higher than the market on Amon-Ra. So that's a nice little double tap. Already sets you up in the first two rounds for that game. So, and it's a dome game. So that definitely helps Goff and the entire offense as well.
So how much are you looking at this, Sam? You're obviously keeping this in the back of your mind when you're drafting. This is a schedule between week 15 and 17 for the redraft people out there. This is what the fantasy playoffs will look like for you. And of course, week 17 they're all massive weeks in Underdog. You advance and then you have all the monies on the line for you, in that final week of the season. And what we failed to mention off the top, I mean, $3 million to first place. I mean, they run the largest fantasy football contest ever over at Underdog Fantasy. Promo code FTN. They'll match your first deposit 100%. There is something to be said about, drafting a team. You got to get there, right? You got to get to this point. But once you're there, those matchups that you alluded to, it's nice to kind of seek out the ones that could potentially be high scoring and game changing for you to win the millions. But things will change, of course, over the course of a season. There's always surprise teams. The defenses are a little bit better, offenses are better, or whatnot. But you did just kind of touch on some of these matchups. Is there anything else? Is there any other games when you look at this board? I know for me, the Titans getting Houston twice is good for Derrick Henry. We've seen him run all over the Texans over the past few years. I'm sure the defense in Houston will be a little bit better, but you are indeed looking a lot at this schedule when you're drafting, correct?
Well, you sort of mentioned you have to get there first, and I'm sort of going against my word. I mentioned doing the CeeDee Lamb and Amon-Ra St. Brown double tap in the first two rounds, but I'm sort of falling into that just because my rankings have Lamb and Amon-Ra higher than their ADP suggests. So it's just sort of naturally falling in line. But I'd say in the first 8 rounds or so, the Week 17 matchups isn't on my mind at all. I'm just going to be drafting by my rankings, and I can make a swap for within tiers. Maybe if I have Christian Kirk or Calvin Ridley, maybe I'll take Miles Sanders at this pick. Over whatever running back goes. Dameon Pierce. Maybe if I was deciding between Miles Sanders and Dameon Pierce right there, I'll take Miles Sanders because it's the same tier for me. But I'd have to get to round 9 at least to sort of start looking at the week 17 correlation. it's in the back of my mind. I know all the matchups. As soon as I make my roster, I already know their week 17 matchups, but I still don't want to draft beyond tiers up to the double-digit rounds or, like I said, in the 9th round, because it's hard enough to get there. And if you're just trying to focus on week 17 the whole time, how many other people are drafting the same way? How many other people have that same exact combo? Even when you get to playoff weeks, you're going to have combinations of week 17 stacks with other teams there. So I'd rather stick to my gut and get the guys that I want and focus on that in the later rounds is more of tiebreakers than anything.
I couldn't agree more, actually. I want to do another block with you, a couple sleepers, but quickly on just the offenses here. The new look offenses, if you want to just touch on them quickly, the Saints with Carr, the Browns really with Watson now because they had Watson towards the end, but this is, he was shaking off the rust and you added Elijah Moore in there. The Jets with Rodgers, or touch on those new offenses. If you could just rank them quickly, Saints, Browns, Jets, and maybe let's put the Niners in there with Purdy because he's a guy that I've really seen jump up draft boards. A month ago, it was Trey Lance ahead of him. Now Purdy is going ahead of him, and he was pretty good down the stretch for some of these weapons. Can you rank those offenses for me? Niners, Saints, Browns, Jets. How would you rank them?
Yeah, I'd say just with I'll rank them by my exposure, and I think
Yes.
I guess the best values on the board. I'd say I really like the Browns. I really like the Amari Cooper and Nick Chubb, in the second, fourth round area, and then locking up Watson. We've seen his ceiling. We know what it's like. I'd say the Saints I really like too. Just with Derek Carr, I think he's getting a bad rap. If you look at some of his player props, he's up there. He's like top 10 in passing yards, around 3,900, 900-ish range. It was for a while higher than Trevor Lawrence. I think the line sort of fluctuated and changed that. But regardless, he's free. He's a nice QB2 to tack on. I'm taking the dice roll on Michael Thomas there, especially with his wide receiver heavy room. I'm fine getting Thomas. I love Rashid Shaheed. He's one of my favorite late round guys. So that's a really cost efficient stack. You can tack on Kamara there as well. And then so you said the Jets, and what was the other team?
I think the Jets, I think you hit on them. The Niners, we can just bypass. We know that they're solid offensive weapons. But the Saints with new quarterbacks, right? With Watson and Rodgers, with the Jets, Saints, and I would say the Browns are in. I personally would probably rank them. Oh, I mean, they're there. Saints, Browns, and Jets. It's kind of how I feel about those three teams. It's how I'd rank them.
Yeah, I'm sort of I do like the 49ers a lot more than Purdy. I actually think Purdy is probably one of the most undervalued QBs on the board, but I'd say Purdy and Kittle is my favorite just to lock up the onesie position. And I'm just not getting a lot of Jets personally, just because I'm a little bit lower on Garrett Wilson. He's in the first round now. So just because if I don't have Garrett Wilson, I don't want to target a Jet stack, but I think it's completely okay as well.
All right, Sam, we got a break. Quan, I don't know if you caught the message in the chat. Quan says, oh, no, he sent me the private message. He knows the matchups. Give him the money now.
Please, Underdog.
I just know all the week 17 matchups. Give him the money now. I love it. That's fantastic. It made me chuckle. One more segment, if you don't mind, sir. We'll break and we'll talk about some deep sleepers at running back and wide receiver. We'll wrap up the Underdog talk here with Sam. Keep her locked.
The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare. Build your teams just like an owner. Buy, sell, or trade officially licensed digital player cards. Build your 5-player weekly lineup, and you could win rewards like tickets, autographed jerseys, and more. The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare, taking Dynasty to the next level. future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare. Build your teams just like an owner. Buy, sell, or trade officially licensed digital player cards. Build your 5-player weekly lineup, and you could win rewards like tickets, autographed jerseys, and more. The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare, taking Dynasty to the next level.
One thing I failed to ask you in that final block was like your favorite, maybe late underrated stack, like a Houston, Carolina, an Indy, Atlanta, Pittsburgh. Do you have any interest in those teams? It's like a third stack.
Yeah, I'd say I could say if Saints don't count as a late stack, a lot of times I'm doing the Derek Carr, Rashid Shaheed, and then Taysom Hill or Juwan Johnson. But yeah, I'd say out of all those teams, I'd probably say Carolina is the one that I'm using super late. And a lot of times it's just with Bryce Young and Hayden Hurst. If I got absolutely squeezed out of my QB2, that's almost free. You just take, because Hurst is actually a guy that I'm targeting a lot. I wouldn't at all be surprised if he's the guy leading the Panthers, in receptions and yards, because it is a pretty ambiguous receiving core. I prefer not to do that. So I mean, obviously, if I have Nico, Thielen, you sort of fall in line with that. But yeah, I wouldn't say I'm really going out of my way to attack any of those cheap stacks. I think even the Matt Stafford, Derek Carr range is sort of where I like to have my secondary stack. With Matthew Stafford, you could do backdoor the Van Jefferson, Higbee, Stafford. I'm in on the Rams bounce back this season. So obviously, you're not going to have Kupp if you're backdooring it, but you can get the rest of the offense just with those guys alone.
Saw the message here from Lou talking about Nakua. We mentioned him a few times on this show as like a potential late round flyer with your Rams stack, because nobody stepped up after Cooper Kupp. I mean, Higbee had 70 plus catches. Nobody stepped up after Kupp. And Jefferson, Tutu Atwell, Skronik, these guys didn't really show us a whole lot. So I kind of like this call, Lou. And then CEH in round 18 with Pacheco maybe missing that first 6 weeks of the season, which is a possibility. I have a lot of Jerick McKinnon. I don't know if he's going to get 9 receiving touchdowns again, but I could see that late round flyer there as well. You mentioned Shaheed, and I think maybe you and I are just higher on the Saints. It probably viewed as like a late round stack, and I had him roughly top 12 there in the rankings. Here are some wide receiver sleepers, whether you agree or not here. I just tried to target guys outside of ADP 160 in the last 5 rounds. Jaden Reed, Rashid Shaheed in here, Isaiah Hodgins, John Mechie, Khalil Shakir, and Richie James as maybe a late pick. There's a lot going on in Kansas City. I'm with you. I want Kelsey and Mahomes. I'm not in on Kadarius Toney, but I know Kevin and I did a best ball draft for FSGA. You're only competing against 13 other people, so you don't really need to stack. We didn't have Mahomes, but we took Rashee Rice super, super late. We took Sky Moore, just hoping we could get some spike weeks, because it is Kansas City after all. Like, these guys may not be consistent, but we could see some games. And I just got this feeling we'll see a couple solid games from Richie James. I'm not interested in Kadarius. I'm not interested in MVS, but I think we'll see Rashee Rice, Sky Moore, and potentially Richie James with some spike weeks. Maybe I'm crazy. Who's your favorite on this list? And maybe you don't like any of them. I'm fine with that too.
These top 3 receivers on the list, I have over 24% of the first 3 right here: Jaden Reed, Rashid Shaheed, Isaiah Hodgins. Just because we're desperate to find upside for wide receivers, and Jaden Reed, he has a second round pedigree, and Christian Watson, he had a great rookie season, but I don't know if I consider him this dominant alpha. It is hard to trust the pass catcher from Jordan Love, but that's the thing. We have no idea what this Green Bay offense is going to be. So I like betting on the draft capital, and we see rookies get steamed up the boards this season. And Jaden Reed, for some reason, I guess maybe it's just with the Romeo Dubes hype, and people are still clinging on to how Watson closed back half of the season. But to me, it looks like Reed is locked in at minimal just to get the slot role, and that's a starting wide receiver with good second round capital that's pretty much free, past round 15. Rashid Shaheed, we talked a lot about. If you're fading Michael Thomas, Rashid Shaheed is one of these few wide receiver handcuffs. And you look at his last 5 games, or last 6 games, he was averaging 3 catches, 62 yards, giving you about double-digit half PPR points. And that's great down there. A lot of these guys, we have no idea what their roles will be on the field. I feel confident Shaheed is going to be the wide receiver 3 at worst, maybe wide receiver 2. Is Michael Thomas going to finish the season? We don't know. But, Derek Carr's always had this random wide receiver 3 pop out every season. You saw it 2 seasons ago with Zay Jones. You saw last year with Matt Collins. So there's definitely usable wide receiver 3s with Derek Carr. And Isaiah Hodgins, he's the guy that I have the most. I feel like people just are ignoring what he did in the back half of the season last year. And I understand that Darren Waller is here, but to me, I think he's the wide receiver 1 on the offense pretty clearly, in my opinion. And a lot of these, you look at his data, a lot of people just look at the regular season data where he started getting starts in the back half of the season, but you look at him through the playoff stretch. So his last 6 games from week 12 to the playoffs, he averaged, let's see, pull this up. So he averaged 6.2 targets per game, 5 catches, 55 yards, and he was scoring a touchdown over half of them, 0.6 touchdowns per game, giving you 11.6 half PPR points, and he's free. You showed the ADP right there, the 170s. I think is going to be the wide receiver 1, and Daniel Jones, a lot of times you can just grab naked because Darren Waller is the only guy that gets drafted ahead of him, but you take Daniel Jones and then you save your last couple of picks with Isaiah Hodgins, Paris Campbell, and Darius Slayton. And if he's available, Hodgins is the first guy that I go to just because we've seen the ceiling. And that I actually saw this interview, that monster playoff game that he had with over 100 yards and a touchdown. He played that game with a fractured foot, which is crazy to me. And he wasn't even supposed to play at all. And it's a small sample size, but it's completely baked into his ADP. He's free, and maybe I'm biased. He helped me win a lot of tournaments that week too, just playing Isaiah Hodgins. So I'm going to stay true to my guy, and I'm just going to keep drafting Isaiah.
I like it. He's on the list for a reason, man. He was really good down the stretch of the season, and I'm not a big believer in Sterling Shepard or Slayton at this point. I think Hyatt is interesting. He could have some boom weeks as well, like as the deep threat guy kind of in that offense. And I had the same numbers as you, Shaheed, from week 12 to week 18, 63 yards per game. I rounded up, so I gave him an extra yard there. 17.1 yards per catch, like the average over that span. Again, small sample size, but that was 6th among wide receivers with 26 plus targets. This guy was getting used down the stretch of the season and deep down the field. So I love him. I think he's a really good target as well. Dude, you're fantastic. I have another sleeper running back board if you want to hang on for 3 more minutes. You don't have to.
Oh, yeah, no.
But if you want to, let's do it. We'll do one more block with Sam, and I got some MLB picks to round up the show. Just 3 more minutes. I want to hit up on some running backs as well, and then we'll get Sam out of here. If you have any questions, now's the time. I see some people rolling through. We'll try to rapid fire through some of them if you do have some questions. One more segment here with Sam. Keep her locked.
Play So Rare MLB, a free revolutionary fantasy game and marketplace that transforms fans into general managers. Build your team with ownable digital player cards. Collect, buy, sell, and trade to optimize your lineup. Compete against So Rare managers from around the world. Climb leaderboards and advance to elite competitions. Based on your player's performance on the field, win rewards like game tickets, merch, and much more. Draft your set of free cards now at sorare.com/MLB. Play So Rare MLB, a free revolutionary fantasy game and marketplace that transforms fans into general managers. Build your team with ownable digital player cards. Collect, buy, sell, and trade to optimize your lineup. Compete against So Rare managers from around the world. Climb leaderboards and advance to elite competitions. Based on your player's performance on the field, win rewards like game tickets, merch, and much more. Draft your set of free cards now at sorare.com/MLB.
One more segment here with our guy, Sam Schudery, SC_FFB. Always tweeting some really nice info, man. You're using those split tools. You got some nice info all the time. So a really good follow there. What's going on, everybody? We got Nathan in the house. What's up, Chris? We had Lou here. I think we hit on this, Lou. Hopefully we did. We talked about Sky and Rice as like some spy weeks in there as well. Nathan in the house mentioning Rodgers and Wilson. Rodgers ADP is cheap for a guy, the 4-time MVP. Yeah, you're not lying about that, but he doesn't come with that rushing upside that some of these other quarterbacks do come with. Miller penalty box in the house. Oh, I like the name. Good afternoon, boys. Welcome in. Let's do rapid fire here at the end. I got, again, some names here at the running back position. We already touched on Leonard Fournette. I honestly believe that Nick Chubb can flirt with 2,000 yards. I really do. This is a guy that averaged just over 2 catches in his final 7 games as a rookie. In his sophomore season, he was on pace for 50 grabs before they go by to Kareem Hunt. And he did have a week 18 game with 6 targets, 5 grabs, 40 some odd receiving yards, and a receiving touchdown. But I still believe, with all that said, Jerome Ford may be worth your time as RB50 here. I got Tank Bigsby on the board, Jalen Warren, Jerick McKinnon as 9 receiving touchdowns, and then Samaje Perine there as RB35. Anybody here? I know you like Fournette. Anybody here that you like? And if you don't, again, it's okay, man. You could shut these down. No problem.
Oh, no, I'm hammering these guys. I'm not even just saying it. You look at my exposure. These are guys that I'm well over the field on. You know, the field is around 8%, and I definitely have more than 8% of all of these guys. And I'd say the only reason I'm not getting as much Jerome Ford anymore is because I don't know why people are coming around to Ford right now. He was going in the 18th round for the first 3 weeks to a month or so. So I got a lot of my exposure there. I went to UC, and I actually got to see Ford play a lot, so I love the dude. I think he'll be a good RB2 to Chubb. But yeah, no, I like all these guys, and just with the way I'm building, like I said, I'm trying to like pile together RB2 points, and I think all these guys will have a usable role in their offense with just upside to have the RB1 role.
Yeah, and for Ford, I've really seen him jump up as well. I was with you. It was like a late pick for me, and I know Kevin really liked him as well. I wanted to take him the other day in the draft, and I was like, just a touch early. And we ended up missing, and he was like, I told you should have went Ford. I'm like, forget Ford. It's a Nick Chubb season. He's going to catch 40 passes. Forget about it. Dude, you're fantastic. Like I said, really appreciate your time here. I told you we'd be about 20, 25 minutes. We went double that. A lot of really good information. We hit up on a lot of stacks, some sleepers. We talked through your strategy, and we hit up on some running backs as well. Sam is fantastic. He will always answer any questions you guys have on Twitter, SC_FFB, as I mentioned. Sorry, guys, if we didn't get to any of the questions that you did have here. We have to break, and we'll wrap up with some MLB picks. But if you have any or watching the replay, leave them in the comment section. I'll share them with Sam. We'll answer them for sure. You can reach out on the Twitter machine. Emails, meanstreetsftn@gmail.com as well. Sam, good luck with the rest of your drafts. Let's do this again. When we get closer and closer to the NFL season, maybe we'll chop it up one more time when we really get into draft season, which I do believe is here, but I know heavy draft season come August as well. Sam, thank you so much, dude. We'll keep her going here on Mean Streets. A couple MLB picks to wrap up the show. Back in a couple.
Play So Rare MLB, a free revolutionary fantasy game and marketplace that transforms fans into general managers. Build your team with ownable digital player cards. Collect, buy, sell, and trade to optimize your lineup. Compete against So Rare managers from around the world. Climb leaderboards and advance to elite competitions. Based on your player's performance on the field, win rewards like game tickets, merch, and much more. Draft your set of free cards now at sorare.com/MLB. Play So Rare MLB, a free revolutionary fantasy game and marketplace that transforms fans into general managers. Build your team with ownable digital player cards. Collect, buy, sell, and trade to optimize your lineup. Compete against So Rare managers from around the world. Climb leaderboards and advance to elite competitions. Based on your player's performance on the field, win rewards like game tickets, merch, and much more. Draft your set of free cards now at sorare.com/MLB.
Couple MLB picks to wrap up Mean Streets. There's a lot of afternoon action going on. There's only 3 games from 6:40 Eastern on, so I wanted to attack the late schedule for the Game Plus Network crew. Again, ftnbets.com/free. If you aren't signed up already, you're missing out. But we do have a bunch of picks over there. And again, with the package, all picks across all sports, projections, tools, it's all there included for you. I'm going to give some love to the Houston Astros. I know I feel like I'm coming in here like, oh, wow, the Astros, really? This is your pick? Like, of course. I mean, these guys are like minus 210 favorites here, but I'm taking the over on the 4.5 team total at minus 135. I'm taking them on the run line at minus 118 and giving a little love there to Chas McCormick. But first, I'm going to pick on Hogan Harris, who's going to get the ball for the Oakland Athletics here today. He's allowed 34 runs in 47 innings. He checks him with a 6.51 ERA. He's got a 5.45 xFIP. He's walking over 4 batters per 9. He's issued at least 4 runs in his last 4 starts, and he's had 13 walks over that span. So he's really struggling with his command, and he's also not getting any swing and misses. He's got an 83% contact rate. He doesn't have the innings to qualify, but that would be inside the top 5 among starting pitchers. And he's got a 47% fly ball rate. Now, pitching in Oakland does help you with that high fly ball rate, but it's still a massive red flag, 47% fly ball rate and an 83% contact rate. As for Chas McCormick, man, this guy is heating up. He's hitting .333 against lefties. He's got 4 homers in his last 4 games. He's racked up 21 total bases and 8 runs over that span. So I'm taking the over on the total bases at plus 145, 1.5 total bases. And I'm taking a little bit of a sprinkle on the home run, even though it's in Oakland at the Coliseum, plus 510. And here's the same game parlay for you guys on the way out. It's just really a heavy Astros stack. I got the Astros to win, the Astros to score 5 runs. Jose Abreu and Alex Bregman are also playing much better over the past month than they did at the start of the season. These guys historically are good against southpaw pitchers. Abreu to get a hit, Bregman to get a hit, Tucker to get a hit, who's killing it right now. And as I mentioned, Chas McCormick's he's just on a heater at the moment. And then Dubon, who's been leading off for them, hitting well as well. This season, really a 275 average, should lead off for the Astros. The lineup is not out, but I expect him to lead off. And if he's getting on base, and I like all these other guys to get some hits, I think that they could potentially drive him in. So that's a same game parlay. I put like 0.25 units on it at plus 625. Good luck around the diamond. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Cheers.